Some nights change your life forever. For Sophie Bennett, it wasn't supposed to be that night. It was just another closing shift, another round of wiping down tables and counting tips. But when she stepped into that rain-soaked alley to throw out the trash, she had no idea she was about to make a choice that would save 3 lives, including her own. Some nights change your life forever. For me, it wasn't supposed to be that night. It was just another closing shift, another round of wiping down tables and counting tips. But when I stepped into that rain-soaked alley to throw out the trash, I had no idea I was about to make a choice that would save 3 lives, including my own. Let me take you back to that September night in Chicago. Back to when I was just Sophie Bennett, a 26-year-old waitress going through the motions of living, but not really alive at all. 6 months. That's how long it had been since the accident. 6 months since the phone call that shattered everything. My parents, both of them, gone in an instant. A drunk driver, a rainy highway, and suddenly I was alone in the world. An only child with no aunts, no uncles, no grandparents left. Just me and an apartment full of memories that hurt too much to look at. I dropped out of nursing school after it happened. Couldn't focus. Couldn't see the point. My textbooks sat in a corner of my bedroom, gathering dust, reminding me every day of the future I'd put on hold. The future my parents had been so proud of. Mom used to brag to her friends, "My Sophie's going to be a nurse. She's always had such a caring heart." But that heart felt pretty broken now. So I waitressed. I poured coffee and served pie and smiled at customers and went home to my empty apartment and tried not to think too much. That was my life. Wake up, work, go home, sleep, repeat. I was 26 years old, and I felt like I was just marking time, waiting for, I don't know what. For the pain to fade, maybe. For life to feel like it mattered again. That night, that rainy September night, started like any other. The diner was dead after 9 o'clock. Just a couple of truckers nursing coffee and a college kid studying in the corner booth. Maria, the other waitress, had already left. It was just me and Tony, the night cook, closing up. "I'm taking the trash out," I called to him around 10:30. "Be careful out there," he grunted, not looking up from the grill he was scrubbing. "Looks like it's really coming down." He wasn't wrong. The moment I pushed through the back door, the rain hit me like a wall. Cold, heavy drops that soaked through my uniform in seconds. Chicago in September, you never knew what you were going to get. That morning had been sunny and warm. Now it felt like October had arrived early, bringing all its cold darkness with it. I hoisted the trash bag and hurried toward the dumpster in the alley. The streetlight at the end flickered, casting weird shadows that danced in the rain. I just wanted to dump the bag and get back inside, maybe grab a cup of coffee before finishing the side work. I lifted the dumpster lid, tossed the bag in, and that's when I heard it. A sound. Soft. Almost lost in the rain. A whimper. And then, unmistakable, a baby's cry. I froze. My heart kicked against my ribs. Who would leave a baby out here? In this weather? In this alley? Hello. My voice sounded small and scared. Is someone there? Another cry. 2 cries, actually. Babies. Plural. I moved around the side of the dumpster, my sneakers splashing through puddles, my breath coming fast. And that's when I saw him. A man, slumped against the brick wall, half hidden in shadow. His expensive suit was torn and soaked with something darker than rain. Blood. So much blood. And on either side of him, 2 infant carriers, covered with what looked like his jacket, trying to keep the rain off the babies inside. Oh my God. I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands shaking. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" His eyes opened, dark eyes, filled with pain and terror. He couldn't have been much older than me, maybe 30, with the kind of face you'd see on a magazine cover. But right now, that handsome face was pale and twisted in agony. "Please." His hand shot out and grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "Please don't call anyone. You're hurt. You need an ambulance. You need." No. The force of it made him gasp, and I saw him clutch his side where blood was seeping through his white shirt. No police. No hospital. They'll find us. They'll kill us. I stared at him, my mind racing. This was insane. This man needed help. These babies, I looked down at them, and my heart broke. They couldn't have been more than a few months old. Tiny faces, eyes squeezed shut, crying softly under their makeshift shelter. Who's trying to kill you? I don't understand. My company. People I trusted. He was struggling to breathe now, each word costing him. They want something I have. Government software. Worth millions. They've already my wife. She's gone. These are all I have left. Lily and Rose. I can't let them. He couldn't finish. Tears mixed with rain on his face. Every rational thought in my head was screaming at me. Call 911. This isn't your problem. Walk away. This is dangerous. You could get hurt. You could die. But I looked at those babies, Lily and Rose, he'd called them, and something inside me cracked open. Something that had been frozen solid since my parents died. They were so small. So helpless. And this man, whoever he was terrified. Not for himself. For them. I thought about my dad. How he'd have done anything to protect me. How he'd have thrown himself in front of that drunk driver's car, if he could have. This man had the same look in his eyes. Desperate, protective love. Please, he whispered again. Please. Just hide us. Somewhere. Anywhere. Just for tonight. I'll figure something out. I swear I will. Just don't let them find my girls. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. The rain poured down. The babies cried. This man was bleeding out in front of me. And I had to decide. Right now. This moment. Call for help and maybe get them all killed. Or trust the stranger and maybe save them. Or maybe get myself killed instead. I looked into his eyes. Saw the truth there. The terror. The love. The absolute conviction that calling the authorities meant death for his daughters. Okay. I heard myself say. Okay. My car's out front. Can you walk? The relief on his face was almost painful to see. I think so. With help. Then let's move. Now. What happened next was a blur of adrenaline and fear. I grabbed one baby carrier, tucked it against me, trying to shield the crying infant from the rain. I helped him to his feet with my other arm, feeling how heavily he leaned on me, feeling the wetness of his blood soaking into my uniform. The other baby, he gasped. I'll come back. 30 seconds. Can you make it to the street? He nodded, and we stumbled forward. I got him to the front of the building, leaning against the wall, hidden in shadow. Then I ran back for the second carrier. Rose, or was it Lily? I couldn't remember which was which. She'd stopped crying now, just staring up at me with dark, solemn eyes. It's okay, sweetheart, I whispered, though nothing about this was okay. It's going to be okay. My car was parked half a block away. Getting him there felt like it took forever. Every car that passed made my heart stop. Every shadow looked like a threat. But somehow we made it. I got the carriers secured in the back seat, no car seats, just sat down as carefully as I could manage. I got him into the passenger seat, where he immediately slumped against the window, his breathing shallow. Stay with me, I said, starting the engine. My hands were still shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. Just stay with me. My apartment's 10 minutes away. I pulled into traffic, checking my mirrors obsessively. Was that car following us? What about that one? I didn't know. I couldn't tell. I just drove, taking random turns, doubling back twice, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The babies were crying again. Both of them now, a sound that seemed to fill the entire car. The man beside me was barely conscious. And I was... God, what was I doing? What had I just done? Almost there, I said to him, to the babies, to myself. Almost there. My apartment building looked like a sanctuary and a trap all at once. I parked in back, helped him out, grabbed both carriers. He could barely walk now. I had to half-carry him up the stairs to the second floor, praying no neighbors would open their doors, see us, ask questions. My hands fumbled with the keys. Finally, the lock turned. We stumbled inside, and I kicked the door shut behind us. The man collapsed onto my couch, his eyes closing. The babies were screaming now, full-throated wails. My apartment, my small, quiet, empty apartment, suddenly felt full of noise and chaos and fear. I set the carriers down, locked the door, threw the deadbolt, put the chain on. Then I turned and looked at what I'd done. A bleeding stranger on my couch. 2 infant girls I didn't know how to care for. No hospital. No police. Just me and whatever nightmare I'd just invited into my life. My heart was pounding. My clothes were soaked with rain and blood. The babies were screaming. The man was dying. And somewhere in the city, people were hunting them. What have I just done? The first 48 hours were the longest of my life. I remember standing in my tiny living room that first night, paralyzed, not knowing where to even begin. The babies were screaming. The man on my couch was unconscious, his breathing shallow and ragged. Blood was soaking into my cushions. And I had no idea what I was doing. But here's the thing about crisis. It doesn't give you time to fall apart. You just move. You do the next thing and then the next thing, and somehow you survive. First, the babies. I lifted one out of her carrier. She was so light, so fragile in my hands. Her face was red from crying, her little fists waving. "Sure," I whispered, rocking her awkwardly. "Sure, it's okay." I had no idea if it was okay. But what else could I say? I'd never taken care of a baby in my life. I was an only child. No younger cousins. No babysitting jobs as a teenager. I knew absolutely nothing. But these girls were hungry and wet and terrified, and they needed someone. They needed me. I found a blanket, laid it on the floor, put both babies down. They kept crying, but at least they were safe. Then I turned to him. He was dying. I could see that. The wound in his side was deep, still bleeding. His skin was cold and clammy. His pulse was weak. 2 years of nursing school kicked in, not enough to make me a nurse, but enough to know the basics. Enough to maybe, possibly, keep him alive until morning. I grabbed my first aid kit, towels, everything I had. I cut away his ruined shirt with scissors. The stab wound was on his left side, just below his ribs. Deep, and this was the only lucky thing about that whole nightmare night, it didn't look like it had hit anything vital. The bleeding was bad, but not arterial. I cleaned it as best I could, my hands shaking the entire time. I'd practiced this kind of thing on mannequins in class. Never on a real person. Never on someone who might die if I got it wrong. "Stay with me," I whispered as I worked, pressing gauze against the wound, wrapping bandages tight around his torso. "You have to stay with me. Those girls need you. Do you hear me? They need their father." He didn't respond. Didn't even move. But his chest kept rising and falling, and that was enough. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. The babies had finally exhausted themselves and fallen asleep on the floor, curled against each other. I covered them with another blanket, then collapsed into my armchair, my whole body trembling. What had I done? I'd brought 3 strangers into my home. One of them was bleeding on my couch. People were trying to kill them. And I had no plan, no idea what to do next, no one to call for help. I should have been terrified. And I was. But underneath the fear was something else. Something I hadn't felt in 6 months. I felt needed. Those babies needed me. That man needed me. For the first time since my parents died, someone needed me to be strong. To be brave. To not give up. So I didn't. The second day was harder. He woke up around noon, fevered and disoriented, calling out a name. Elizabeth. Over and over. His wife, I realized. The mother of those babies. Gone. I gave him water. Managed to get some pain medication down him, changed his bandages. The wound looked better. No signs of infection yet. But he was weak, so weak he could barely lift his head. "The girls," he rasped. "Are they?" "They're fine," I said, gesturing to where they slept in the carriers I'd set up near the window. "I've been feeding them. Changing them. They're okay." He closed his eyes, tears leaking out. "Thank you. God, thank you. I don't even know your name." "Sophie." Sophie Bennett. James, he whispered. James Westbrook. James Westbrook. The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it. Later, when he was sleeping again, I Googled it on my phone. My blood ran cold. James Westbrook. Tech billionaire. Founder of Westbrook Systems, one of the fastest-growing cybersecurity companies in the country. Worth an estimated $300 million. In the news recently for landing a major government contract. And there, just 3 months ago, a tragic story. His wife, Elizabeth, dying in childbirth. Complications. She'd given him twin daughters and then slipped away. This wasn't just some random man I'd saved. This was someone powerful. Someone whose disappearance would be noticed. Someone whose enemies had serious resources. I should have been even more terrified. Instead, I felt oddly calm. At least now I understood what we were up against. Over the next 2 weeks, our strange little world settled into a rhythm. James healed slowly. The fever broke after 3 days. The wound started to close. He could sit up by day 5, stand by day 7. And through it all, we talked. Late at night, while I fed the twins, I'd figured out which was which by then. Lily had a tiny birthmark on her left ear. James would tell me his story. About Elizabeth, his college sweetheart, the love of his life. How they'd tried for years to have children. How she'd been so happy when she found out it was twins. How he'd held her hand in the delivery room and watched her bring 2 perfect daughters into the world. How she'd smiled at him, said, "Take care of them," and then just gone. Hemorrhage. Too fast for the doctors to stop. "I was supposed to protect her," he said one night, his voice breaking. "That was my one job, to keep her safe. And I failed." I understood that guilt. I was supposed to have dinner with my parents that night, the night they died. But I'd canceled, said I had to study for an exam. If I'd been there in the car with them, maybe Dad wouldn't have taken that route. Maybe we'd have left 5 minutes earlier or later. Maybe everything would have been different. "It's not your fault," I told James. "You can't control everything. Sometimes terrible things just happen. Like men you trusted trying to kill you for software code," he said bitterly. That was the other thing he told me about. His business partner, Marcus Chen, and 2 other executives. They'd been planning to steal proprietary government software James had developed, software that could monitor and protect critical infrastructure. They'd planned to sell it to foreign bidders for tens of millions. When James discovered the plot and threatened to go to the authorities, they decided he was too dangerous to live. They'd cornered him that night as he was leaving the office late, tried to grab the portable drive where he'd backed up all the evidence. He'd fought back, got stabbed, somehow managed to escape with the girls. He'd been trying to get to his car when he collapsed in that alley. "I have a friend," he said. "Daniel Park. He was my college roommate, my best man at the wedding. He's the only one I trust now. I've been trying to reach him, but my phone died. I'm afraid they're monitoring his lines. But Daniel is smart. He'll figure out something's wrong. He'll find a way to help." "And until then?" I asked. "Until then, we wait. We hide. We survive." So that's what we did. I took a leave of absence from the diner, claiming a family emergency. James slept on my couch. The twins slept in the carriers, then later in dresser drawers I lined with blankets, makeshift cribs. I learned to change diapers without gagging, to make formula at 3 in the morning half asleep, to tell the difference between a hungry cry and a tired cry, and my diaper is wet cry. And something unexpected happened. In the midst of all that fear and hiding and uncertainty, I started to feel alive again. Those babies, Lily and Rose, they didn't care that I was grieving or broken or scared. They just needed me, needed to be fed and held and comforted. And every time I picked one of them up, felt their tiny weight in my arms, smelled that sweet baby powder smell, something inside me healed a little bit. James noticed. I'd catch him watching me sometimes as I rocked Rose to sleep or made silly faces to get Lily to stop crying. His expression was complicated, grateful, sad, something else I couldn't quite name. "You're good with them," he said one afternoon. It was day 12. He was sitting up on the couch, looking almost healthy again. The color had come back to his face. Elizabeth would have liked you. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted. I'm just trying. That's all any of us can do. He paused, then said quietly, Sophie, why did you help us? You didn't know me. You had every reason to call the police. But you risked your life to save ours. Why? I looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully in my arms. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe because I know what it's like to lose everything. After my parents died, I felt like I was drowning, like nothing mattered anymore. But then I found you in that alley, and suddenly something did matter. Keeping you safe. Keeping them safe. Maybe I saved you because I needed to be saved too. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Daniel made contact. He sent a message through a gaming app. He knew they wouldn't think to monitor that. He's arranged a safe house in Connecticut. Small town, quiet. He's got new identities set up, money, everything we need. We can leave in 2 days. My heart sank and soared at the same time. They'd be safe. That was good. That was the whole point. But it also meant this strange chapter would end. James and the girls would go back to their world, and I'd go back to mine. Back to my empty apartment, and my meaningless waitressing shifts, and my half-finished nursing degree. Back to just surviving instead of living. That's wonderful, I made myself say. I'm so glad.
James looked at me for a long time.
Then he said something that changed everything. Come with us. I stared at him. What? Come with us. To Connecticut. Help me raise them. He gestured to the sleeping babies. Sophie, I don't know how to do this alone. I'm figuring it out, but they need stability. They need someone who knows what they're doing. Someone they already trust. Someone who, he stopped, took a breath. Someone like you. Please. I'll pay you, of course. Whatever you need. You can finish nursing school if you want, or... James. I know it's insane. I know it's asking too much. But these past 2 weeks, watching you with them, they're attached to you. They smile when you hold them. They calm down when they hear your voice. And his voice cracked. I can't lose anyone else. I can't. If you come with us, at least I'll know they have someone who truly cares about them. Someone who isn't doing it for money or duty, but because I love them. I finished softly. And it was true. Somewhere in those sleepless nights and desperate days, I'd fallen in love with Lily and Rose. With their tiny fingers and their gummy smiles, and the way they looked at me like I was their whole world. The rational part of my brain was screaming warnings. This was crazy. I barely knew this man. I'd be uprooting my entire life. Moving to another state. Taking care of babies that weren't mine. Getting tangled up in a mess that could still get me killed. But the other part, the part that had been dead since my parents' funeral, was singing. Singing with hope and purpose and the possibility of something beautiful rising from something tragic. I looked around my apartment. At the water-stained ceiling and the secondhand furniture and the nursing textbooks I'd been too sad to open. This place held memories of my old life, but it wasn't home anymore. It was just where I'd been hiding from the world. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. Okay, I heard myself say. Okay, I'll come. The relief on James's face was like watching the sun rise. Really? You mean it? I mean it. On one condition. Anything. No paying me. If I do this, I do it because I want to. Because I care about them. Not for money. We're in this together. Partners. A team. Okay. He nodded, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Okay. Partners. 2 days later, I packed everything that mattered into 2 suitcases. I left a note for my landlord, gave notice at the diner over the phone. I walked through my apartment one last time, saying goodbye to the ghosts that lived there. My parents' voices in the kitchen. My old dreams gathering dust in the corner. Then I closed the door and didn't look back. Daniel had arranged everything perfectly. The drive to Connecticut was quiet. James drove. He'd recovered enough, though I insisted on checking his wound one more time before we left. The girls slept in the back seat, finally in proper car seats Daniel had provided. And I sat in the passenger seat, watching Chicago disappear in the rearview mirror, wondering if I was brave or just crazy. Hey, James said softly. You okay? I don't know, I admitted. Ask me in a year. He smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him. Fair enough. For what it's worth. I'll keep you safe. All of you. I swear it. I believed him. The safe house was perfect. A small, cozy place on a quiet street in a town where nobody asked too many questions. Daniel had done well. Over the next weeks and months, we settled in. James worked with federal investigators to take down Marcus and the others. They were arrested, tried, convicted. The danger passed. But we stayed in Connecticut anyway. We liked it there. I went back to school, finished my nursing degree. James eventually sold his company. He'd had enough of the tech world. He started a charity instead, one dedicated to helping families who'd lost mothers in childbirth. He named it the Elizabeth Westbrook Foundation. It felt right, keeping her memory alive like that. And the girls, Lily and Rose, they grew. First words, first steps, first days of school. They called me Sophie at first, but eventually it became Mama Sophie. James never asked me to take Elizabeth's place. Her pictures were all over the house. We told the girls stories about her. She was always part of our family, even though she was gone. But somewhere along the way, James and I became more than partners. More than friends. It happened slowly, naturally. A hand held during a particularly tough night with a sick child. A conversation that went on until dawn. The way he looked at me across the dinner table. The way my heart sped up when he smiled. We were married on a crisp October day, 3 years after that rainy September night. Lily and Rose were flower girls, giggling and throwing petals everywhere. Daniel was the best man. And as James slipped the ring on my finger, I thought about how strange life was. How the worst night of your life could lead to the best thing that ever happened to you. We had another baby 2 years after that. A son, Samuel. The girls adored him, fought over who got to help feed him, to hold him. And now, all these years later, I sometimes stand in my kitchen, our kitchen, watching my family. James is helping Lily with her homework. Rose is teaching Samuel how to tie his shoes. The house is full of noise and laughter, and the beautiful chaos of a life fully lived. Sometimes I still think about that night. That rainy September night when I found 3 strangers in an alley and made an impossible choice. When every rational thought told me to walk away, but something deeper, something truer, told me to stay. James comes up behind me, wraps his arms around my waist, rests his chin on my shoulder. What are you thinking about? He asks. That night, I say. In the alley. I think about it too. How close we came to everything ending. I thought I was saving you, I tell him, turning to face him. That's what I thought I was doing. Being brave. Being strong. Saving the man and the babies in the rain. You did save us.
No.
I touch his face, look into those dark eyes that I've loved for so many years now. Don't you see? We saved each other. I was drowning in grief, going through the motions, not really living. And then you crashed into my life, literally, and suddenly I had a reason to get up in the morning. A reason to be strong. A reason to hope. He kisses me softly. So, what you're saying is, getting stabbed and collapsing in an alley was the best thing that ever happened to me? I laugh. When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous. It is ridiculous. All of it. You should have called 911. I should have died. None of this should have worked out. But somehow. He looks at our children, at this life we've built from nothing. Somehow it did. Mama Sophie, Rose calls. Samuel said, I'm not the fastest runner, but I am. Tell him I am.
Dad.
Lily chimes in. Can you check my math? I think I got it wrong again. And just like that, the moment of reflection is over. We're pulled back into the beautiful chaos of our everyday life. But as I help Samuel with his shoes and James explains fractions to Lily and Rose continues to insist she's the fastest runner in her class, I feel it. That overwhelming sense of gratitude.
Of joy.
That night in the alley, I thought I was making a choice about them. About whether to save 3 strangers or protect myself. But really, I was making a choice about me. About what kind of person I wanted to be. About whether I'd let fear win or whether I'd choose hope, even when hope seemed foolish. I chose hope. I chose love. I chose to believe that sometimes, when everything seems darkest, that's exactly when the most beautiful things can grow. Three strangers in the rain became a family. A broken man, two motherless babies, and a grieving woman became something whole. And sometimes, most times, the best things in life are the ones you never saw coming. The ones that find you in the dark, in the rain, in an alley behind a diner on an ordinary September night. The ones that
Save you right back.